Good evening. The Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council or LEDAC session with President Bongbong Marcos is postponed in favor of holding separate meetings with Senator and the members of the House of Representatives. Senate Majority Leader Joel Villanueva says the lawmakers were supposed to sit down with the President for their regular LEDAC meeting, but this was postponed. The LEDAC is composed of the President, selected members of the Cabinet, the House Speaker, and the Senate President with the goal of advising the executive branch on economic policies. According to Villanueva, some senators had an executive session with Marcos instead. He adds that following the senators' executive session was that of the House of Representatives. The separate meetings come amid a growing tension between the two chambers of Congress over charter change proposals via a people's initiative. Several lawmakers have already called on the President to intervene and settle the standoff between the two chambers. There will be no further extension of the deadline for consolidation of public utility vehicle drivers and operators past April 30, 2024. President Bongbong Marcos earlier approved Transportation Secretary Jaime Bautista's recommendation for a 3-month extension. The initial deadline for PUV consolidation was December 31, 2023, but unconsolidated PUVs would not be apprehended until February 1, 2024. In a press conference, Bautista says the April 30, 2024 deadline would be the final extension.
Ito na ang final extension, no? In fact, mag-issue nga kami ng statement dati na even with 76%, we can implement the program, no? But since meron ng clamor na sana magkaroon ng extension, kaya ang ating presidente ay pinagbigyan itong mga humihingi ng more time.
Under the government's PUV modernization program, drivers and operators are required to consolidate into cooperatives or corporations to apply their franchises. Transport groups have opposed PUV consolidation because of the huge costs entailed in acquiring the modern jeepneys. They also said it violates their right to freedom of association. For their part, Bautista says the extension of the deadline is for those who are willing to consolidate but did not make the previous cutoff.
Meron na nag-file ng motion, no, for consideration na i-consider yung kanilang application, no. Meron ding mga lumapit sa akin na grupo, no, na gusto na rin nila. Ang sabi nila, hindi nila masyadong naintindihan yung programa, but ngayon ay naintindihan na nila and willing na silang mag-consolidate, no. So yun ang hinahabol namin, no. Yung mga willing mag-consolidate. Yung hindi willing mag-consolidate, siguro yun ang hindi nagsusuporta sa programa natin, no?
Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel says the House of Representatives should not hijack the People's Initiative for charter change. In a television interview, Pimentel notes the House can push for cha-cha through the Constituent Assembly instead of hijacking the People's Initiative, quote, to conceal an agenda. According to Pimentel, the hidden agenda in the People's Initiative is to give the lower chamber more power to change the Constitution. Senators earlier said that if the People's Initiative prospers and should Congress vote jointly, the 24-member Senate would be powerless and outvoted easily by more than 300 House members. This comes amid reports supposedly pointing to House members behind the People's Initiative, one of the 3 modes of amending the 1987 Constitution. Speaker Martin Romualdez has already denied the House's involvement in the People's Initiative while recognizing the people's will to propose constitutional changes. Vice President and Education Secretary Sara Duterte says public school teachers will finally be relieved of administrative or non-teaching duties. Duterte makes the pronouncement during her presentation of the 2024 Basic Education Report, saying teachers will be brought back to the classrooms. According to Duterte, the Department of Education will be releasing the department order to implement the new directive on Friday, January 26. A corresponding memorandum will also be released next week. Meanwhile, Duterte also announced that additional maintenance and other operating expenses will be provided to schools in order to hire administrative support staff. Groups have called for the DepEd to remove teachers' administrative tasks so they could focus on teaching tasks instead. The Department of Agriculture records at least 700,000 pesos in agricultural losses due to the effects of the El Niño phenomenon. In its first El Niño bulletin for 2024, the DA reveals the 700,000 pesos worth of damage and losses is affecting 22 farmers with about 22 hectares of rice areas in Zamboanga del Norte. According to the DA, it has taken steps to help curb losses in the province, including a joint area assessment before the conduct of cloud seeding operations and the promotion of drought-resistant crops. The Office of Civil Defense on Wednesday said 8 provinces are now experiencing drought due to El Niño. State meteorologists note that the strong and mature El Niño is ongoing and may persist until February. The Department of Health reports an increase in human rabies cases and a decline in dengue cases since December last year. According to DOH, there was a 63% increase in human rabies cases from December 17 to 31, 2023, with 13 cases recorded. This is higher than the 8 cases recorded from December 3 to 16 last year. The Health Department says it has recorded 7 rabies cases so far from January 1 to 13 this year, but notes that data may be updated due to incoming late reports. The DOH then reminds the public that rabies is lethal. It urges the public to vaccinate their dogs and cats and seek immediate medical attention for animal bites. Meanwhile, the DOH records a 16% decrease in nationwide dengue cases from December 3 to 16 to December 17 to 31 last year. It also notes dengue cases have gone down further this year from January 1 to 13. According to DOH, there are 14 dengue-related deaths so far in 2024. The Health Department notes that while dengue cases increase during the rainy season, the public should still be careful amid El Niño when people are expected to store water. It reminds the public that water containers must always be covered and regularly cleaned to prevent mosquitoes from laying their eggs. Here's the latest roundup of today's top stories. President Bongbong Marcos separately meets House and Senate amid debates on charter change. DOTr says there will be no further extension of the deadline for consolidation of public utility vehicle drivers and operators past April 30, 2024. And Taiwan says China has been pressuring the Philippines following President Marcos's congratulatory message to the new Taiwanese leader. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado, follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.